See what I did there?
Yeah.
I did.
Yeah.
The straws all work the same.
Yeah.
That's right. They do, Steve.
Now they're paper straws.
That bullshit. Oh, fuck. Some people's kids, man. That's all I gotta say. Talk about, you know, the wrong issue to be fucking jumping behind. The paper straw.
Yeah. The damage of straws in the universe.
That's right.
What I find funny about all of that is, has anybody ever seen pictures of other countries? Like, their pollution problem is way worse than ours.
Way beyond the paper straw.
Yeah. There's places where they just like take their trash and just throw it in the river that runs through town.
Yeah. Yeah, it's some crazy stuff. But I am going to get the show going. Steve, I'm going to put you in waiting in the wing for a moment.
But I don't want to wait.
What's that?
I don't want to wait.
Well, Steve, not you.
No.
Not to like tear down the wall or anything, but you do realize that we're live.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So everybody forget everything you've seen and heard.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, you know, there's going to be more people coming in. So, but it's new software, man. I'm trying to, you know, acclimate.
But the button still says
it can't always be perfect.
The button still says go live.
Steve, fuck off. In case I haven't said it to you today already, fuck off.
You've only said it like 6 times.
Oh, okay. Well, 6 times too little then.
I mean, right here I have a box that says you're in the show. Everyone can see and hear you.
Right.
Yes. Don't worry, man. We'll fix it all in post.
Okay. Nobody will be none the wiser.
We won't fix it in post at all.
Or we'll do nothing.
Yeah.
There is no post.
Only Zool.
I see that one over my head.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, Steve. You ready to start this thing, buddy?
Yeah, just let me know when you hit the live button.
I did. I said I'm going live.
Oh.
You may have been muted.
Steve, you have issues. But anyway, I'm going to start the production for the show, Steve. Is that okay?
You're going to do what?
I'm going to start the fucking opening to the show.
Well, do it.
Mute.
Oh, I didn't know I was supposed to mute. I'm sorry.
Steve Alcorn's a fine investigator.
Oh, fuck off.
This is the New York.
I don't need porn, Chris. I have a good woman.
Listen, I have a good woman. I still watch porn.
Co-host Steve Alcorn.
You are the top shit in Bigfootery if you get the invitation.
Oh, are you?
I've gotten the invitation 2 years in a row now, Chris.
Wow, not me.
And sometimes special guest Matt Knapp.
It's part of growing older, you know? Maturing. Makes me more dignified and stuff. Okay, George Washington. I opted for the...
This is what meth addicts say? That make me more dignified.
Taking on all things strange since 2013.
Wait a minute.
I don't know what the hell.
Are you saying that he's pregnant?
Possibly. Was he implanted by one of these teenage aliens?
Did that happen to Arnold?
This device, which comes as part of Nintendo's Quality of Life initiative, is
going to have kids running around banging their heads off bricks.
Yeah.
You're about to witness the strength of creep knowledge.
Good evening, and welcome to the Fortean Slip. This is episode 87? Is this 87?
Yeah, sure.
Sure.
That's how you titled it.
What?
That's how you titled it on YouTube.
As episode 87?
I don't know. Let me look.
Yeah, it's 87. It's episode 87. Steve, I am correct. It's episode 87. Tonight, we welcome to the program for the second time the Squatch detective.
I'm waving
Or
at
as I
him.
like to call him, Tactical Man, Steve Kulls. The only guy I know that can put on more tactical equipment in one episode of Monster Quest than anyone else.
I didn't want to make him feel alone, so I put my camera on as well.
As you should, Steve. If you have not checked out the video of Steve Kulls kicking a Bigfoot, I posted it to the Fortean Slip like page. How long has it been? I did not look back to see when we had you on the show. It was years ago.
2017.
Was it 2017?
I
It wasn't that long.
I actually listened to the episode.
Oh, sorry.
Well, you can apologize. I came across it quite by accident.
But Richard was doing the show then. We didn't have you on then. When
No,
Richard was on the show, it was with Matt.
No, everybody was here. It was you, Steve, and Matt. Because we were talking about, Steve was talking about having calamari with him.
Having what?
Calamari.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, but that was a while. When you guys met up, that was a while ago.
I don't know.
That was like 2014 or so.
No, it was. I'm pretty sure it was 2017.
The guest is always right, Chris.
Yes. We'll go with 2017.
I'm gonna have to do some research on this one.
If you debunk the statement, then you debunk the statement.
Right,
He's a
correct.
Squatch detective, so he should know. I mean,
He should know, but see,
part of
that's
his
the whole
game.
point, Steve. As we know, you were once a fine investigator,
Once.
but you've fallen a few rungs.
And he couldn't get up.
No. And yes, and I was kind of hoping that they would put Steve and Steve in the same column, so because I don't know who is more corny out of the two of you between Hal Corner, you Kulls.
I can make that happen.
You can you come drop out and come back in.
Don't let him back in.
Well, I don't know why he even dropped out, because I could have just removed him from the stream and then popped him back in.
Yeah, well, he doesn't know. It's new software.
Yeah, it's new software. That was good, Matt. That was really good. So recently, Steve Kulls had made this post that he was fed up with the Bigfoot community.
Steve Kulls lost his shit.
Lost his shit. And instantly I look down through the comments underneath it and I see Matt Knapp and I see, you're a liar. I'm just like, what the fuck? So I instantly messaged you when I read it. And I'm like, yeah, I think it's about time you came back on the show. I mean, I hadn't bothered Steve, like really. I think I'd hit him up. I hadn't bothered Steve in a long time. But I'd seen this post and everything I read in there echoed like what we've been saying on this show for years now. The idea of just being fed up with the shit that's out there and people who just will not. I've said many times, I went out to the Olympic Peninsula to the Browns property. And, most people know the story. But I went out there with one of the people that I went there was David Batdorf, and David is very science minded, and he was like trying to take them through, hey, this is what you should be doing, like, document all this stuff, and this is the way you should document it, and it's like it literally either went in one ear and out the other, or just flew over the heads. Like, that's what I saw, and time again I've seen it. The people who want to do real research just get mowed over by the I don't know what it is that mows them over, but you'll even see sane-minded, or what you think are sane-minded, rational thinking people just get mowed over by this machine that is the quote-unquote Bigfoot community, and it's crazy.
And in both ends of the spectrum. And that's actually, I posted this morning that when you overthink an issue, you always produce wrong results either side. I mean, there's people that are, that want to be objective, but they're so overly objective and think too much that they come up with the wrong results. And then there's people who want to be so pro Bigfoot that they overthink it, and they come up with these wacky ideas now that, Bigfoot can cloak or shapeshift or jump into a portal or come out of a UFO or whatever. And what really set me off, Chris, was, I'm posting about, this lunacy that's going on at the time. And all of a sudden, this flesh and blood guy starts getting hung up on the tapetum lucidum. And the problem is that sometimes people are so, pardon the French, fucking smart that they fail reading comprehension. They didn't see what the overall meaning of the post was. And here's a person that should be on my side, but is so arrogant for whatever reason that, how dare he go against what I believe, even though it's just a little piece of it, that I have to argue about it with him. Believe it or not, I was actually doing a presentation in, I want to say 2017 at the Pennsylvania Bigfoot Camping Adventure, and there was a skeptic there, and I was actually debunking Todd Standing, and then he starts arguing with me about debunking this one particular issue, and I had already done my due diligence and homework on the particular area I was talking about. But it's like people want to get stuck on the little things when they're failing to look at the big picture, and that was why I threw my hands up and got so frustrated. And luckily it wasn't for very long, and I turned around and I started a little movement called and it's the hashtag Stop the Lunacy, which is a combination of the woo and lunacy. And it's not meant for the people, and I want to make this clear too, it's not meant for people who may have had a paranormal experience while going out, with a Bigfoot. Okay, I can't take away an individual's what they perceive as. I may have some scientific explanation or possibilities to explain why they did it. But the movement's against the people that, thank you, sir, the people that constantly are showing these videos that, they're having encounters every time they're out, and they never produce any evidence. And, today, I'm going to call out names as I see it. And I was happened to just a right time. I was flicking through Facebook, and here's one of those cats out there. I like to call him Fred KK Caney out there, throwing, out why he can't photograph a Sasquatch, because it takes their soul away.
It does what now?
Takes their soul away.
Nobody said that.
They're like Incan fucking people. They don't believe in cameras.
You're lying. You're lying again. Nobody said that.
I've been doing this for 40 years. He said almost 40 years. Well, that's funny because until Facebook, I never heard of him. And people have been trying to debunk me for 38 years. Really? What are they trying to debunk? I've never seen one piece of evidence.
If his
KKK.
claim is that he can't photograph them because it takes their soul away, then why does he post so many videos of Bigfoot?
Exactly. It's
That's
just him
a video.
blabbing.
You can
It's just
capture
him-
them in motion, Matt. It's once you stop them in motion, you've stolen that moment of time.
But, what really bothers me about him is here is a guy that a
It's
couple
full of absolute bullshit. Like,
right, but a month ago went on this homophobic, racist rant, and then tries justifying the use of a particular word against a particular race. And he is everything that is the antithesis of what I stand.
wait a
And
minute.
and it's
Are
just
you saying that Fred Caney might be a little racist?
well, he
Alleged-
claims he's not.
alleged-
But
Allegedly.
Well-
Steve, we've learned a long time ago, Steve, that if you put the word allegedly in front of you, in front of anything, it absolves you of any responsibility.
I call it like I see it. And if he uses that word several times and then goes and tries to defend it in 2 other videos, I'm sorry. I call it like I see it. In my opinion,
No problem.
that's what I call it. And he
Hey,
can try.
if you're using that particular word, which we won't repeat on here, then you're obviously a racist. I mean, there's no defense for it.
That shouldn't even be on the tip of your tongue, no matter how angry you are.
Steve,
Which one?
you.
What?
Why do I have an echo?
Because I don't have my earphones in.
Hmm.
I can turn the sound down. I can't figure out how to use the earphones with this setup.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
But I'll
I
try.
got a wicked echo. So, anywho, but you had said something to me before the show about the fact that you wanted to talk about Fred, and I've seen his videos before. They are, I don't know, and believe it or not, I actually interviewed him once.
You did?
Not interviewed him. Let me take that back. I got interviewed on a show he was on. Matt, you remember, don't you?
Yeah.
Yeah, like I kind of got like sideswiped. Like it was early on. It was before he had started the show, and I got asked to go on another show with a certain person. That you may remember, Steve.
Probably not.
Do you remember? Not you. The other Steve, Alcorn. Do you remember who I'm talking about?
No.
In California.
From California.
It was when I was there.
I don't remember. I don't recall that happening.
Oh. I see. Well, anyway, while I was out there. So what's your issue with your headphones, Steve?
I can't figure out how to make them work. I plug them into my computer and it still comes over the speakers. And I can't plug them into the mic like we have been. So I have
Okay.
Where do you have your speakers plugged into?
my computer.
That's where you plug your headphones into.
Yeah, but that's on the
Then you will
back
have the
side.
sound in your ears and not out where I can hear it echoing to fuck.
Plug them into
and I'll work on
Alcorn.
it. And
Plug
then-
them into the Yeti, and then go to your computer and change your settings from playback from the speakers to the Yeti microphone.
Yeah,
Hold on, let me
I
try.
tried to explain that to him the last time.
And I'm such a fine investigator that I can't even investigate.
Right click on the little speaker.
I found it. Right click. Okay, now what?
Playback.
No, wait, hold on.
Is that smoke coming from the computer?
Okay, speakers. Okay, speak.
Speak.
Hello.
Oh wow, that worked.
All right.
How do I save it? It just saves.
Yeah.
But then I got
Technology is amazing, isn't it?
Steve, you should be able to do that through the StreamYard.
No, it won't
There's
let
a
me.
thing down below. It says settings.
Yeah, but it only gives me 3 options: camera.
Oh, it doesn't give you.
resolution,
Oh,
and
that's
mic.
right too. It didn't give you the Yeti. That's correct.
No.
I apologize for that.
It gives
But
me
I'm
the
glad
Yeti.
I'm glad we figured this out.
It gives me the Yeti, but it
Live
doesn't give
on
me.
air.
Now, back
Thank
from
you
the top.
Yes. So tech support with the Fortean slip every Sunday at 6 p.m.
Clusterfuck with the Fortean slip.
So yeah, Fred Caney, I got stuck in this frigging conversation with him. Oh God, it was 6 years ago. It was 2013. And I was just like, what the fuck am I listening to? He's talking about like birthing areas and like going to visit these birthing areas. And I'm like, what? What are you talking about?
Let's just face it. That whole geographical region that he's in is not a real bright spot of the Bigfoot world.
Sorry, Steve. I just wanted to bring something to the attention of the show.
That's not the chair. That's just Steve.
That's his back.
Yeah.
I actually had shots in my back that it's not the cortisone, but there's some in there. But I don't know what it is. But man, did it work! So it's not my back anymore, but it's my chair. Yes, I'll get some WD-40.
That is a squeaky ass chair. What yard sale did you pick that up at?
I picked this one up at the Goodwill for $5.
Curb alert.
What person's house did you pick that out in front of?
I told you,
I got it with their trash.
I got it at the Goodwill last week for $5. It's very comfortable.
Mine does the same thing. I'm just staying really still.
there is something bothering me. That Santa Claus peeking over his shoulder is kind of creepy. Can we just like turn it around?
Can we throw a towel over that fucker's head or something?
It's going to stay there the whole show.
What should creep you out more?
I hope it fucking moves on us.
There is a picture of the 3 of us, of myself, Steve, and Matt on the wall
with our
pants down. With aliens about to probe us. That should bother you a little more.
There, Santa Claus is gone. Does that make you happy, Steve?
I'm good, thanks.
It should. One thing I do want to talk about tonight is the 4K restoration of the Patterson Gimlin footage. But aside from what you were talking about earlier, Steve, what would you say is the biggest problem right now in the Bigfoot community when it comes to research?
Well, what it seems to be is that things are broken up into cults. You have the crowd that follows the Xenu or whatever the hell that they're called. To me, why is Team Squatching USA called Team Squatching USA? It should be called Team Xeno USA or whatever. You have these people that have these cult followings. Of course, I don't know what the hell happened to Dr. Matt Johnson with this whole Zorth stuff. Very similar. Eric Beckshard years ago was a flesh and blood guy too, and something snapped in him, and then it was all of a sudden Bigfoot was talking.
I remember with Matt Johnson. I remember hearing, here's a guy. He comes out, he tells this story, and he cries like almost every fucking time he tells a story. And he's very, like you're saying, he's very, very a flesh and blood guy. And it just. The turnaround, it's weird, and where it's gone, like the evolution of it.
It definitely was it's probably one of the strangest turns I've ever seen.
Yeah, that one, I'm like, whoa. But yeah, I agree with you. It becomes this cultish thing,
and that is the biggest threat to us. The problem is the flesh and blood, or as Windbag McGee likes to say, the wood apers, we're too confrontational when it comes to, these little minute details, that we need to put that aside and agree to disagree, but all agree on what the commonalities which we agree upon. and
Yeah.
come together and go against this stuff. And I'm really surprised that some of the people that have picked up the stop the lunacy mantle, of all people, I really have much interaction with Daniel Benoit, but he's kind of picked it up. Like him, hate him, I don't know. I don't know him very well, but he's kind of picked up the mantle. And that's where everybody should be at. We should be taking a stand against this garbage. If anything, the first time we really saw a cult following was with Rick Dyer. That's how it started and it transgressed. Now we have all these little spur-off groups, and I might also add that again, you know, there's people like Windbag McGee who was a Rick Dyer follower, you know, trying to say, you know, it's like trying to put a, you'll never do this. It hasn't worked for 20 years of ridiculing these people. Nobody's ridiculing people. I put up some very funny videos to get attention to say, hey, we can look at this in a lighter fashion. We don't always have to be so serious about it. After all, it is just Bigfoot. Something I felt passionate about. You know, you go fast forward in the 20 years I've seen, have things gotten better? No, they've gotten worse. Social media has given us the ability to communicate, but it's also given the ability for people that have some very bad ideas and some very bad, and no science, zero science, and kind of propagate it. And if we look over the years, what have we seen that has failed, that has fallen short? We have seen, you know, the Jerry Crew tracks come under fire because of what's his name having, you know, plaster cast or the wooden shoes in his shed. We have the Erickson project that blew up to be nothing, especially when its masterpiece was the Randy Brisson footage of what looks like a Wookiee, a Chewbacca mask. We have, you know, the Melba Ketchum project, which was a total disaster and debacle. Oh, we got published. You bought the magazine.
Yeah.
You didn't get published. So you look at something that disingenuous, it just leaves a real bad taste. And then to come up with saying it's angel DNA. And then after that happens, she starts having these type of experiences, like the Sasquatch braiding her horse's manes, which if you go back at the turn of the century, they were calling them witches' knots or elf knots. And it was reported in England that, and what happens is science had a very good explanation for it 75 years ago.
Yeah.
But here's this scientist trying to say that. So what's the agenda there? You know, and that's the other thing I look at. Are these people really that fucking crazy, or do they have some sort of other hidden agenda?
I think by and large, there are the crazies that are out there. There are the
Absolutely.
people that are absolutely crazy, and I do think that that's the case. But I think by and large, a lot of these people find a niche that they feel like they can exploit. And they, you know, they're like, oh, I can get these people and these people, and once they get a little bit of power, you know, it just, they get power hungry.
It's steamrolled.
And a lot of these people are in it for the money. So the people that actually make a little bit of money, you know, because there are those people out there. They sell the books. They sell a little bit of this or they sell a little bit of that. There are those people out there. It's not a big market of money to be made, but they are out there.
Hey, Steve, you've written a couple books, right?
Yes.
You make a lot of money on those books? No. There's not a whole lot of money out there. But people,
but for some people out there,
right,
there are. Like, I'm sure, like, Todd Standing didn't take a loss on that movie going on to Netflix.
No, I don't think so.
No.
But I think you have to be at that level before you make any kind of money.
I don't think he's getting rich at it.
No, he's not getting rich by any stretch of the imagination. No.
If he was getting rich, he wouldn't be begging for money.
And in all fairness, I don't think Fred Caney is out for money. Don't think so either. I
No.
think it's something that had occurred in his head, and it just got bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger, and more people were following him.
And I don't
And-
understand those types of things either.
And the other, well, you know what it is? There's something missing in a person's life, something somewhere. Whether I'm not a psychologist. Hell, the psychologist is saying there's Zorth exists.
Yeah, right.
But there's something missing. There's something going on in a person's life, and whatever that psychological need is, maybe they have feelings of inadequacy or something, and this is the way they feel fulfilled. It's by people, because no matter where you are on Facebook, there's going to be. I could turn around tomorrow and say that, I've been talking to a Bigfoot named Harold for the last 30 years, and somebody somewhere out of the 49, whatever, 100 people that are following me on Facebook, there'll be 2 or 3 who go, oh, wow, really?
I will only believe you if that Bigfoot hangs out with an old chick named Maud.
That's very, very, very apropos point. But there would be somebody to agree with that. There would be somebody to say, I want to know more. There would be somebody.
We've talked about doing an experiment. No, we have never done it, but we've talked about it on this show in the past. Just put out the craziest bullshit you could think of, and somebody will follow that.
But then again, I don't stand behind that. I could have done it. I thought about it. But then what does it do to your future credibility?
Right. And that's part of the reason we never did. Right. But we've talked about it. We could do that, change our names and we wouldn't even.
Well, the amazing Randy did that.
Right.
He put out. He did the Carlos hoax.
Again, he's a skeptic.
Yeah.
So that's a completely different animal. It is the minute we start putting out bullshit, even if it's under a pretense, and we return to normalcy, we put out something real. There's going to be the doubting Thomases. Well, 20 years ago or 15 years ago.
I think leaving people like you out of it. But I think if such a study was done of putting something out there like that and seeing who would follow it, just the wacky bullshit.
What do you think? It's already been done by Rick Dyer.
Yeah,
several times.
Bigfoot cast black magic. News at 11.
But there would be a certain crowd of people who would eat that shit right up.
I take acid and fucking follow fish with fucking Bigfoot. Just make the craziest shit up, and I'm absolutely sure that you would get a group of people that would be like, oh yeah, this shit's going on,
and they would share their similar experiences.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
If you think about it, social media is like the perfect medium to start a cult.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if you think about what Manson did back in the 60s, he did that by word of mouth. So he got maybe 100 followers, and it wasn't until he got into the media where other people started to come in and 100 multiplied. But if you think about it, the people that lived on Spawn Ranch, they didn't number. I don't think they even numbered 100. But if the social media existed today and Manson was on Facebook, his number would probably be in the thousands worldwide. And when you think about that, that's fucking scary.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
That is really scary. So this is just a small slice of the bigger picture. And that's why I do things with a little bit of levity and a little bit of fun, because this is only Bigfoot, but it does have some real world repercussions.
Well, one of the reasons why I started doing this show was because I had always thought that these communities needed to have a little bit of humility in their lives. Like they needed to just be like, let's laugh at ourselves for a minute.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's not it doesn't always have to be this attack when you joke about something. I can remember that, the comedians of old, it would sound like they were bashing the shit out of one another, but they were loving on each other.
Exactly.
You know,
Don Rickles in the roast.
yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah, and it's like and it's like, you know, let's just have a little bit of fun like that, and that's one of the things that this show's based on. I shit on Steve a lot on this show. Like I give him fucking holy old hell. It's part of the fucking show.
It's
Like, it's what we do.
It-
like we give each other shit.
Right.
And fucking Matt gives me shit and gives Steve shit and we give Matt shit. It's how it works. And for the record, like psychologically, especially for guys, like that's a thing.
Mhm.
You know, it's a way we process with each other. But you know, I had started this show and I'm like, let's just have some fun, like, because all these people they're way too tight about this. It's way too rigid. Like, you have to be straight laced, and you can't. Everything has to be, you know. We can't have any, you know, potty humor or anything. We can't say any swear words in this podcast. Dear God, we're talking about crazy things that may or may not exist. You know, like when you're going down all these different roads. Like, I mean, chupacabras and fucking Mothmen and. Fuck, have a little bit of fun with this shit.
I gotta say, one of my favorite people to follow is that Peter Kane guy, and people go so crazy. It's clearly comedy, clearly,
Exactly.
but people go so crazy thinking this guy's really trying to put out evidence. It's not evidence.
Well, now hold on there, Steve. Like, you forget, I have a podcast in the Bigfoot world with a group on Facebook.
Right.
And I'm telling you, there's a large group of people out there that think Peter Kane is telling the truth, and that's real shit. That's why people throw such a fit. It doesn't matter how obvious it is.
I know. That's my thing.
Like,
it doesn't matter how obvious it is.
Kulls put out a thing exposing a very popular Bigfoot person as a complete and total lying hoaxer. I shared it in my group and got attacked for it.
Yes.
Was that who? Which one was that?
I'm not gonna say, but
no.
It might be. It might be a woman whose name rhymes with rat.
Oh, fucking Catwoman.
Possibly so. Yes.
Well,
and
or
providing
actually,
side-by-side photos. The people were still. That doesn't prove anything. You could have hoaxed those photos to make her look like a hoaxer.
Until the private investigator found out that Katuna actually lives in Connecticut, nowhere near a fucking Bigfoot.
But why? Let's look at that side for a little bit. Why does that, when there's absolute positive evidence that this person is hoaxing, why do these people still
cult?
Yeah, I mean that's the only thing I can come up with. And
But nobody wants to feel like they've been had. Nobody wants to feel like they've been made a fool, and they have, like Kulls was saying earlier. You know, we've talked about it before. A large part of you want to know what these is just social.
You want to know what these people are? These people are the guy at 2 a.m. that handed off his money to the guy to go get the next 8 ball of Coke, and he's fucking sitting there waiting. He's like, no, he didn't fuck me over.
Yeah, right.
No, he's coming back.
He's coming back.
Yeah,
he's coming back. That's what they are. They're so invested in it.
I mean, how can Rick Dyer pull off the 2008 hoax, get completely exposed after national media attention, and then come back and say, well, this time I shot one behind Home Depot, and still get thousands of people coming to see it and pay money. Showing the photos of it on the internet, showing that is obviously fake. And people are like, have you had the hair tested? Well, he has x-rays, you know. Like, come on. People want to believe it. And they'll convince themselves that the story they're being told is true. Just so they have a circle to fit into where they can be somebody and have friends and get that part of their life that they're missing.
Carnies and rubes.
And you know what? It's not just the Bigfoot community.
Oh gosh, no.
Oh no, and we've said it many times.
One of the funniest things I ever saw was one day, I just out of fun, I decided to Google Albany because I live in the Capital District all my life, know the area very well. I was a paramedic here for 8 years, and I ran the whole Tri-City area. And I just happened to Google Albany FEMA camps. And this website came up, and I looked, and it said, well, here's a picture of the Albany FEMA camp. And the Navy has positioned a warship upriver from it in the Hudson River. And they have the picture of this, Navy gunboat. And I go, well, that is the Albany Water Treatment Plant, and that is the USS Slater. It was a destroyer escort, and it's now a museum.
Right.
But that's how these stories get out of hand.
Oh, I had a friend of mine contact me one time to let me know that in my city, where I live in Tulsa, that the government had taken over Walmart and that there were Chinese tanks parked in the parking lot. And I'm sitting here telling them, like, no, that's not true. The Walmart shut down to redo their plumbing. There's no military. I assure you there's no Chinese tanks. Well, I saw it in an article on the internet. Oh, well, in that case.
The problem I think we really deal with is the education levels of people. The people that have stayed above the fray in the Sasquatch research community are the people that I think do the real work that would really get to the bottom of things. The people that subscribe to this, they're not 90% of these cult followers are not real researchers. They're not. They haven't done their homework. They haven't been doing it diligently. And the people they're following are people that have just gotten them by a hook. Now, you know what? It's a funny thing. A couple of months ago, I would never have had a problem with Fred King, but just the fact, and as you said, Chris, you started this show as kind of a little bit of levity and ripping on people once in a while, like Tactical Man. That's funny. Okay, I get it. Richter Riolo does the same thing on his show. Sometimes he'll take a poke at me. I get it. Fred didn't get it. And that started him down the path of being a very angry and bitter person. And what I laugh about, like, there is another guy out there by the name of C. Wayne Wilson, who's, to me, he's harmless. He's actually quite funny, the stuff I see him put out. And he tries to think he's a big movie star and all this. He's harmless. But again, he's putting out pictures of, oh, here's the Squatch. And it's the same. It seems to me to be the same stump from different angles. And then he gets a certain angle and he calls it Anubis or calls it the Birdman or whatever. And he's being followed by the Men in Black and talks about that. And he goes into Walmart and people, showing people in Walmart. Very funny stuff. I can take that with a sense of humor. When Fred stepped over the line is when he started dropping those comments. And to me, that just so infuriated me. And I was learning to live and let live. But when you start doing that, if somebody from outside this thing, somebody legitimate would look at that, now I'm starting to really feel that no wonder why, when I got into this, about 30% of the population believed in Sasquatch. From what I understand now, it's down to 15%. Why is that? It's not because we haven't come up with the information. It's because the good information is being drowned out by carnival barkers, kooks, and people with agendas. That's the reason why.
Yeah, and it is a problem that has been going on for a long time. We've been talking about it. The fact that all of the bullshit, it takes away from anything that's real. For the longest time I bitched. I think I watched like 2 episodes of Finding Bigfoot. And after the first one, my first comment was, when did we get Bigfoot facts? Like, because they would be put up Bigfoot fact, right. And I'd be just like, oh, since when? Where can I look up in a published journal said fact about Bigfoot? You know, if you want to put speculation or whatnot.
Right.
Uh,
But then again, do you blame the 4 researchers? You know, they're given an opportunity to go around the country.
do I blame them? No.
You really can't.
I have nothing but respect for Cliff Barrickman. I can
Yeah, see, I've met Cliff. I've interviewed Cliff. I think he's a great guy. I went out to the Bigfoot Museum in Northern California when they were there to do their autograph signing, and I had run into Cliff. I had interviewed him before on another show, and he had remembered me like right off the bat. He was like, "Oh yeah," and you know, we talked for a little bit, and I met Renee. My first comment about Renee was she's fucking gorgeous. Like, I thought she was beautiful. They butched her up wicked for that fucking show. I was just like, because I always used to comment about it. I was like, God damn it. Could they found a more butch woman to shove on that goddamn show? But when I met her, she was really good looking. And I made comment about it. And she was really nice. She talked to me and my girlfriend at the time for quite a little bit. And but you have to say, because one of the things that my girlfriend had asked her about was, you know, how do you, you know, weigh out the stuff, you know, and she said it's really hard. So, you know, I get it, you know, and I get that, you know, you get these opportunities to be out there to spread a message, but a lot of this stuff gets buried.
You got to understand that, and I've been really close in my day to scoring my own dollars on several occasions. It's never about the message, never is. It's never as somebody being looked at as talent. I understand the messages. I don't control that message unless the show has been on for a couple of years and you're starting to get clout. Which, if anybody noticed, the first year of Finding Bigfoot was really shaky. But as the years progressed, it started getting at least a little bit better. And there's a reason for that, because they started having a little more power to exert pressure as being the talent. Now they're established talent. When you first go out there, you know, and I've seen it. I've been to a couple of their productions because they used a couple of my cases. And, you know, great opportunity to get feet on the ground, even if it's for a short period of time, to meet the people, establish contact with the people. So maybe in the future, if you ever want to do something to follow up, you can do that. But during the actual show, you have about that much time to get that much done if you really want to do the job right.
Well, yeah, and I always used to say that I loved Monster Quest. Loved that show.
But then again...
But what are you getting done in a week?
Right.
You know,
when you were on Monster Quest, Steve, how long did the actual filming take place?
I believe they had like a 9-day window.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, when I did the Nat Geo special, Truth Behind the Loch Ness Monster, they had a 23-day window.
That's a little bit better.
I actually was over there for 9 days, and I filmed 7 of those 9 days.
Yeah.
And it was quite intense. It was very labor intensive. But out of all the shows, Truth Behind the Loch Ness Monster got the message wrong on a couple of things. And I started doing a presentation, and unfortunately I lost that presentation about, and I would take some of the shows I've been in and kind of break it down a little bit. This is what they showed. This is what really happened. And we find that in the paranormal stuff. And there's some shows that I've seen paranormal, you know, my name was mentioned in one, but what they did was they took a 5-year investigation and they...
Boy, that was freaky. Talking about paranormal stuff and things start going all over the screen.
I was trying to switch it around because every time I put something up, it would cover you, Steve. So I didn't want to. And you are the guest. Me. I don't care about covering Elkhorn.
Damn. See how I rate? See what you said about the talent? Yeah, it doesn't make no difference on this show.
You know, they'll replace you tomorrow with somebody that doesn't have an echo.
Well, but just to build on what you're saying, just as an example, Chris doesn't have us okay the little blurbs he's putting up down at the bottom or ask us to sign off on what he posts. He just does it. And the same thing happens on television.
Right.
You know, they just do it, and most of the talent doesn't even know what's going to be on there until they watch the final show that everybody else watches.
Yeah, let me address this. This has been I love how this conversation is evolving. Let me address this point though. If anything that show did, people say, well, what was the positive? What was the negative? Well, the negative was there's some people that think that whooping and tree knocking is all that goes on out there, which is not true. But the good, I think, far outweighed it because it opened some people's eyes. It opened some people's eyes, but at the same time, it didn't make Bigfoot a four-letter word. I think it started to bring that up where people were a little more willing to talk about it, which I think is a tremendous value to what we were doing. Unfortunately, I know that now 90% of the reports we get are I heard a tree knock, or I heard a howl, or I heard something where we're getting a lot more of those crappier sightings without, physical eyeball, eyes on type of sightings, or long-term effect sightings, like a sighting that lasts a couple of hours and stuff like that, or some phenomenon that lasts a couple of hours. So we're losing some of that. Mm-hmm. But it kind of brought it out from the shadows. So that was a good thing. Now there was a question the last show you guys had asked me, because I really didn't have a frame of reference. What do you feel about like bringing the Mountain Monsters guys to a real Bigfooting event as a takeaway from the event? And what I have seen in the two events that I have been with them that were Bigfoot events, not once did they ever give a presentation. Not once did they talk about Bigfoot or Sasquatch. Not once did they sell anything that was Bigfoot related or, had anything of a reference point. They were there as an attraction. They were on TV, signed some autographs, sell some trinkets. And they were there, and they brought people out, and they actually were very quite interested on the side to hear about what we were saying about it. And never once ever said anything about their stuff because, it's wink, wink, it's a television show. So to me, and actually one of them, Huck, actually had an experience seeing a Sasquatch as a child. He was talking. He came over to my table and wanted to talk to me about it. And we had a long discussion, and I gave him a book. And it was kind of funny because I actually saw the guys at the just a month and a half ago, or now a little less, the Pennsylvania Bigfoot 2019. And Huck came up to me and said, I read your book. He goes, it was really good, and you brought out a lot of good points. And that's the extent of it. And again, they're not talking about Bigfoot or anything like that, like they're experts or anything like that. So after seeing it in process, it was really quite harmless.
However, let me ask you this. Mm-hmm. You're familiar with several of these people. There's a number of serious, legitimate Bigfoot researchers who have met those guys at different events and hung out with them, posted pictures on their Facebook pages, hanging out with them, put them on podcasts about Bigfoot that are supposed to have a serious tone about the subject. Do you see any harm in that? Isn't that kind of like giving them a little bit of credence to what they're doing?
Yes and no. I mean, I've actually had actors that have been on, Bigfoot movies that are completely fictional, and I've asked them about the Bigfoot phenomenon, what they think, what their take is on it. It's all, because what is it? It's just a matter of perspective. It's not, as long as they don't portray it. Exactly. As long as they don't portray it as an angle of experience per se. Mm-hmm. Now, that's the other thing that people get all in a bumble about too. People want to argue about the use of the term expert. And
you are on the show with Bigfoot expert Matt Knapp.
Well,
Matt is a Bigfoot expert.
Washington Post labeled Bigfoot expert Matt Knapp.
well, let me let me ask you a question. I'm just going to ask you a simple yes or no question, and maybe I can settle that down. Do you take offense to that?
Do I or does Matt?
Do you take offense to Matt being called a Bigfoot expert?
I think it's fucking hilarious. He takes offense to it.
Well,
Well,
here's the thing.
Well, let me explain this to you. Amongst each other, we are
amongst each other, Steve. It's a joke between us.
Right.
Like for the longest time, we would bring him on the show with all kinds of bullshit fanfare between Steve and I, saying, "Oh, Bigfoot expert joining the show."
Well,
Matt Knapp.
Well, let's look at the word. Expertise is a frame of reference. If I'm a plumber and I go to a plumbing convention, am I an expert? No. If I'm a plumber and I go to a home improvement show and I'm talking with people that have no experience, then I am the expert. Expert is a derivative of the word experience. So in a frame of reference, if somebody is called a Bigfoot expert in a newspaper or something like that, it's because they have experience, not because they know everything to know. And that's our own divine arrogance. That is our own, when people take offense to that, that's our own, what's the word I'm looking for? Not disadvantage, but our own inadequacy in ourselves, saying, why are they called the Bigfoot expert? I've been doing this for X amount of years. How are they the Bigfoot expert? Relax. It's only because the population they're speaking to has zero experience with it. That's all it is. And people get so angry over that and fucked up over it. Step away from it. Step away from the minutia. We have a lot bigger battles to fight. We have a lot bigger battles to fight. Somebody calling somebody like a Fred Caney or a Zorth guy an expert. We have a bigger fight with that.
I think Phil's an expert.
Phil is an expert. My whole take on the expert thing is pretty simple. Nobody's an expert on the actual creature because nobody knows anything about the creature for fact other than what they may have observed in their own personal encounter.
However, Matt, there's one man that may know.
The Sweetwater legend, Steve Alcorn. However, on the subject of Bigfoot, there are many experts. Because like you said, people who have been studying it and researching it and know the history of it and, the progression and, things like that. Yes, those are absolutely experts compared to, the commoner.
Right, exactly.
I would consider Matt an expert over me for sure, or or even you, Steve, an expert over what I know.
Oh no, the way
because of the lore. I mean, you guys know all the background.
Yeah, you guys. I would defer to the same. I mean, I'd say that you guys are far more knowledgeable about the subject and have spent more time in the field. I've spent time.
I am an expert.
Yeah, well, I think
I agree. However, I think it's fucking hilarious because of the side conversations you and I have had.
I think it's the way we perceive that word expert and the way Steve said it makes more sense. It's just that you have more experience with that subject than somebody else. That's it.
Not necessarily. I mean, usually the way I look at it is that nobody here is an expert. It doesn't matter if you've been doing this a couple of years. We've all been doing it. We've all been out and about doing our stuff. We all have some knowledge, whether I may have more knowledge than you. How do I know? In this kind of setting, we're all colleagues. And that's the way it should be. You have your ideas. You have your ideas. You have your ideas. so be it. We're all colleagues. We're all fighting towards a common goal. When we talk to John Q. Public and we're trying to educate somebody, then we become the experts. But an expert is only a temporary title. Remember that.
Yeah.
It's only worn when you're talking to somebody in a crowd, and then when it comes off when you're talking to your.
And it's very relative.
Right. Exactly.
It's very relative.
Exactly.
And nobody ever asked me if they could call me an expert in the article.
No, they just called you one.
Yeah, I didn't even get a write-off on the article. Actually, they didn't. They just published it.
and there is one guy out in Florida that has a real big hang-up.
This show's not getting monetized.
Don't care anymore, Matt. I gave up on it. Okay, not to derail you, Steve. I gave up on it.
I didn't realize Richard Allen was in the chat.
Oh,
so,
yes.
Okay, so Richard Allen, fill in the blank. Matt Johnson is a ...
Oh yeah. He'll fill in the blank for you, all right.
He will.
Jesus.
And then, there's a guy from Florida who got turned.
And of course, we hold on a second, Steve. I hate to derail you, but because he used the word, we have to get from Dean. Dean, I'm instilling back to fuck Dean Cooper.
Does Dean understand that there's more than one definition of some words?
Yes. I mean, come on, Dean. You're back to fuck Dean Cooper. I will, and until you fucking redeem yourself, we will not call you by your name without fuck before it. I won't allow it. Steve, back to you. Sorry to derail you for a moment. He's fucking totally lost now. He's sitting back in his chair. He's like, fuck you, Chris. But yeah, I mean, seriously, I think we could talk about it ad nauseum when it comes to the research. It just gets to a point where everybody gets fed up who has any stake in the game. That's real. Like people like you, Steve, not you, Alcorn.
What?
Matt, who I know has spent a lot of time out in the field. It just becomes a problem for everybody. I think that just the bullshit research, like I've said many times before, it overshadows the good stuff. It takes away from it. And it just makes it so harder for people who are out there trying to do the good things to do what they need to do.
It gets very disheartening.
Yeah.
When, people, I don't know why people flock to these folks, but it is what it is. Yeah. And we haven't even discussed the YouTube side of things too. Like the Kelly Shaw show and the Tuna Hansen.
Oh, Jesus.
I can't comment.
And Katuna Petunia. And
there's just the amount of stuff that has been promoted as real that has been bullshit. It baffles my brain.
Linda Fig Newton Perry.
It baffles my fucking brain, Steve.
It does. It does. And they keep at it. Like some friggin' mental illness, they keep at it.
Oh, yeah. And they're not going to stop. They're not going to stop because they have an audience. They have people that will follow them and will believe them. I wanted to get into the 4K tonight, but someone had made a comment in the chat and had asked Phil Poling what made him think Bigfoot could exist, and he said the Freeman footage. And I know I want to talk about the 4K restoration of the Patty film, but the Freeman footage is one of those pieces of footage that, along with the Patterson Gimlet footage, just it stirred something up inside me when I saw that footage. I was like, whoa, what the fuck? That. So I was curious what everybody's thoughts was on that. Since we're going to be going into the Patterson Gimlin footage, don't everybody jump.
I told you recently that after seeing, I think there's an enhanced version of the Freeman footage I've seen recently, and I just wasn't as impressed as I used to be.
Mm-hmm.
So in my mind, it's hard to say on that one.
Yeah.
Well, I think that it's a very interesting piece of film. I don't have any investigative, no investigative skill in the fight there, or skin in the game. I would like to believe it's real. That's the best I can give you. Is I would like to believe it's real. Do I think it's real? I hope it is. I look at it. I've studied it. Could it be? Yeah. Could it also be a sham? Yeah. But, Paul's son has come out a lot, talked about his father, and, his father wasn't guilt-free of making a mistake in his Bigfooting career.
Yeah, but is anyone?
No, absolutely not. We are all human. We are all subject to mistakes. And what we have found in this business is the people that are truly the bad guys that hoax shit usually do it over and over and over and over and over again. Not just once.
Right.
Yeah.
So.
I tend to like the Freeman footage. I mean, I know it's one of those pieces of footage you can't really tell. Could it be somebody in a suit? Very well likely could be. That possibility. It when I say likely, I don't mean that that's more the possibility. I'm saying it's likely that it could be. It's also likely that it could be a creature in the woods. It's a possibility either way for me. When I see it move, so on and so forth. I'm one of those people who spent a lot of time in the woods. I grew up in rural Maine. As a kid, I spent my time out in the woods behind my house. The trails that went between me and my friends' houses were all through the woods. Like I've seen many a creature. When I see those videos, I see, when I see the Freeman footage, I see a creature. Now, could I be wrong? Could I be seeing it wrong? Could it be something in the video that I'm not noticing that is tricking me, or tricking my brain, or tricking my eyesight, whatnot? Completely, that's a possibility. However, I don't tend to think so, and I think that piece of footage is one of the ones that I'm going to continue to like. It's one of the ones that makes me hopeful. But the thing that makes me, the thing that brings me back though and takes away from it is that I haven't seen much good, beyond those videos. So you're right, Phil. They didn't at all.
Go play in the woods.
Jeez. What is that? Usually the arguments I hear against the Freeman footage, as far as just the footage is concerned, just anger me.
Is it because it goes back to Freeman and the whole bullshit?
Well, no, that's what I'm saying. Whenever the argument doesn't revolve around that, but actually just takes a look at the actual footage.
Mm-hmm.
One, it's fat. Okay. Whatever. I don't see how that proves that it's not real. And two, it looks at the ground as it steps. And, the argument being that Bigfoot doesn't have to look where it steps. It's used to walking around. And I'm just like, really? I look down at my feet sometimes whenever I'm walking in my house. Like,
yeah,
that's not proof that something isn't real,
But again, people will have their own opinions on stuff. Some of them maybe just like, but people get so fucking angry about that it just.
Yeah.
It drives me insane that, well, can't you see that it looks down? And obviously, it's not a Bigfoot doesn't need to do that. How do you know that? People are entitled to their opinions, but they're not entitled to their own facts.
Right.
Whether it be the dork telling me that his primatologist confirmed that Sasquatch is diurnal, or
Wow.
somebody saying that taking a Bigfoot's picture takes their soul. You're not entitled to your own.
I'm gonna. You know what? I think I'm gonna get behind Bigfoot's soul being taken in pictures. I think you can video them. You can video them all day long as they're moving in these pictures. If they're moving pictures, Steve, then I'm behind it. But if you photograph them, that still image just takes their soul.
It does. You want to hear a good one was somebody was taking a picture of me the other day and said, "Oops, it's blurry," and my automatic reaction to that was, "I'm sorry, I've been hanging around with Bigfoot too much."
Yeah.
It was just like right out of my mouth.
It's funny that somebody that uses hate speech publicly or otherwise, but I'm just saying in that situation, someone who uses hate speech is concerned about a Bigfoot soul.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly.
Like if we're going down that whole soul path,
or soul patch,
you've really gone down the rabbit hole here now.
Well, just saying.
Yeah, no, I mean, the Freeman footage, it's one of those pieces of footage. If I look at the footage, I'm like, oh man, wow. And even hearing all the stuff about Freeman and what he was involved in, and was he trying to hoax this stuff, or whatnot, so on and so forth, I still tend to say that I like it. Do I know for sure? I don't.
Nobody does.
And nobody does, and we're not gonna. It's one of these many things that we're just not gonna know.
There's only one guy that knows for sure, and he ain't no longer with us. So
yeah,
that's another argument that gets used on that footage that I find funny. Skeptics, if you come back with a claim, and I'm not talking bad about being skeptical. I'm just saying, if you come back with a claim, instantly the question comes out, well, why weren't you videoing? Why weren't you documenting? And I do agree that everybody going out into the field should be documenting the entire time, non-stop if possible.
Yep.
However, the argument also happens, for instance, in the Freeman footage, well, that can't be real because he was out there trying to film a Bigfoot and he just happened to get a Bigfoot. Well, yeah, that's what we're all trying to do.
Kind of the same argument with Roger Patterson.
Right.
Yeah.
That argument doesn't necessarily.
So you have to video and document everything, but if you get any results, then you're going to be challenged because that was your intentions to do. Therefore, you have a reason to hoax it.
And just to be clear too, for anybody skeptic to turn around and say, well, you had a sighting, you had a camera in your pocket, why don't you take a picture of it? Or you have a cell phone, why don't you take a picture of it? Then they don't understand psychology 101. It doesn't work that way. Even if you expect to see it, you're going to have a little bit of delay in your mind.
Well, it depends on the person too, Steve.
Yeah, but imagine it not being in your belief system.
Well, when I go out in the woods, and anytime I've ever caught anything, like I have a video of a bear, because I instantly grabbed my phone and started videoing.
And you were also instantly in a running automobile, not out on the trail and just all of a sudden there's a bear in the trail.
Right.
Chris, let me predicate that by saying that a bear is 100% in your catalog of beliefs. When you see something that you not necessarily believe in, you got half an ounce of doubt, you're going to stop and your body is going to have this instant, what am I watching? What am I looking at? Very common thing when you talk to witnesses who witness accidents and crimes and stuff like that, there is a delay in. There's almost like and then the after effect is some sort of trauma. No matter how you try to turn around it, you have a slight amount of trauma in there because there isn't one Sasquatch witness that I have yet to talk to that hasn't said that at least for a day or two, they're constantly thinking about what they just saw.
Yeah. I just, to me, I think, you know, because I've run into so many things that have scared the shit out of me early on in life, like just because they popped out at me, be it, you know, birds or deer or whatnot.
Ex-wife.
Yeah, let's not even go there. Fool me twice. But yeah, I tend to, you know, yes. Was I in a vehicle? Yes, absolutely I was. But in this day, when I have my phone on me at all times, if I saw something, I'd pull my phone. I feel like that's the case because
I thought that too.
But
and there's a little known fact that when I had shined my light on that fucker standing there next to the pole, watching the campfire, and I'm out there by myself, and I put the light on there, my mind did not click into, shit, I've got a camera in my pocket, a night vision camera in my pocket, no less.
Right.
It did not even, the first thing my mind went to is, look at that. Look at its eyes. Look how it's blinking at me. Look how tall it is. Look at the long hair. Look at the conical shaped head and shoulders. I can see the shadowing of it. What the hell? And then it goes to, well, if I move, it's going to leave. What do I do? You know, so I moved the light a little bit and it left very quickly before I could even reach in my pocket. You will not think about it. The only real fight against that is always having a body camera. That may save some graves, but that's why I actually get very
body cameras all around.
Well, I mean, somebody may have the presence of mind. You know, Chris may be absolutely right. Maybe if he ran across a Bigfoot, he would instantly.
I know I've ran across like all kinds of instances where I instantly saw a creature in the woods. And even though, whether it be something I can see that I can recognize or not, I'm that type of curious person where I want to be able to look at it later.
And truth be told, you know, when I had my, I wasn't expecting to see. I was just going out to get batteries to grab a smoke. It wasn't like I was, you know, if I heard something and I was going after it, I probably would have had the camera at the ready.
Right. No, I get what you're saying. Yeah. In those moments, you're in a frame of mind, like you said, you were going to get a smoke.
Yep.
You know, any of the times that I've done it, I've been on a trail or I've been out in the woods and I've been walking around. I'm just looking around.
Yep.
You know, because I've caught many times where I've caught deer or, you know, whatnot, just out and about in Maine.
But
out in the woods.
The problem that I think is a little bit larger is, no pun intended there. Let's say you see the bear, okay?
Mm-hmm.
And you're like, holy shit, a bear. And you reach for your phone. That's the length of your Bigfoot sighting.
Right.
Can be, yeah.
Well, absolutely could be. Could not be.
Right, but I'm saying...
But what I'm saying is, if I don't,
majority,
if you don't reach for it, it's not going to happen.
But
if you don't have that in your mind, you know, this is what I should do. It's sort of like that whole idea of how do you, have you ever heard like that trick of how to get yourself to lucid dream, where every time you go to a doorway when you're awake, you go up to it and you knock on it. On the door frame, and you say, am I awake or am I asleep? And then eventually in your dream you'll do the same thing. because you've conditioned yourself.
And then you have that.
Never heard of that.
No, you never heard of that?
Either.
No. What if
What
you're
the fuck
dreaming
is
about
that?
something and there's no door?
Yeah.
Well, you're just preparing that if you ever get to a door in your dream, that
Well, okay.
that's what you do. You
but,
knock
but
on it, you
outside
say,
of
"Am I awake?"
flatliners,
Right.
You know,
I could
and-
tell you. I could tell you if I were out in the woods, and I don't care how prepared I am to see a Bigfoot, and I saw one, ain't no camera coming out of my pocket because I'm going to be scared to death. I mean, I'm.
Oh yeah,
I'll be honest
I'd
with you.
absolutely have some fear kick in.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because I that would be the last thing on my mind.
But
to be
I'll
honest
tell
with
you also, I've had fear kick in with deer too, because when you
Sure.
run into bucks when they're pissy,
and you're
you can
covered
have
in
a
deer
problem.
urine. Oh,
You can have a problem.
Yeah, you're gonna be a doe real quick.
yeah.
But-
So just
Well, yeah, when I get my
upload your
sightings-
photos of all the deer that you've run across, and
Yeah.
argument solved.
I have a shit ton on my Facebook, asshole.
and truthfully, mine wasn't a fear reaction. Mine was more of an awe reaction.
Yeah.
It
No,
was
no,
like,
I get what you're saying, but from what you said when you were just describing how it went down, I get that.
I was lucky. I had somebody actually. I had my videographer there, and he came out. He was at the camp, so they all came out, and he shot video of me, like within a couple of minutes after the sighting, and my eyes looked like saucers. I mean, they were like that, and I'm like, and you could hear me just stumbling over words a little bit.
I imagine
was like,
it's something like what I felt like after I went skydiving.
Probably, yeah.
After I went skydiving, the only way I was high for like, oh God, it was like a few hours afterwards, the first time. And my buddy and I picked up a 6-pack on the way home, and allegedly he may have drank while driving on the way home. But we got to the house and we had polished off that 6-pack. And I looked at him and like, I don't even like, I'm like, I kind of feel a buzz from the beer, but not even at all.
Sobering. It's very sobering.
Yeah, like the immensity of what I had experienced overwhelmed it.
That's a great description.
Yeah,
That's a great description.
Especially if whenever you landed, you realize you're on a different planet that you'd never seen before. That would be similar.
Parachuted through the portal.
Well, I'm just saying, like, it doesn't matter the situation. You're never going to expect to see a Bigfoot.
Yeah.
And, like, the first time that I got a glimpse of one, it was like, I don't even know that these things are real. Like, I've never seen one. And it's like a mind fuck, because it's like your brain is trying to argue with your own sense of what you're observing.
Exactly.
Like you know exactly what you're seeing, and still, even then, I was out looking for Bigfoot. I'm looking at a Bigfoot, and my mind is still, is that some person in a suit? Somebody hoaxing you? Is that a bear? Like my mind was trying to process it, and it was just like shorting out. And like Cole said, it takes a couple days to settle back into reality and be like, oh my God, this actually happened to me.
The second one I saw, I blew it completely off. It was a juvenile. It was a 5.5 one, not very far from where the sighting I had the year previous. And I had gotten into my tent. It was 1:30 in the morning. I had to use a tree. I unzipped my tent to step out. I stepped out. I looked to the left, and it was bright that night because there was a full moon. There was cloud cover, but kind of the leaves dropped, and it gave everything like this night light type of glow. And there it is running across the trail. My first reaction is, oh, bullshit. And then the next day, somebody was like, hey, something left a log behind my vehicle that wasn't there at 11:30 at night when we all turned in, because he had gone to his vehicle to get, his pillow and blanket because it had been raining that day, and he didn't want to leave it in the tent just in case his tent leaked. He would have tripped over that had that been. And the weirdest thing about the whole thing was it was a birch log, and because it was raining out, we were collecting as much birch as we could, because the bark of the birch is very rich in oil, so it burns wet and it burns like kerosene.
Mhm.
So even a more weird type of scenario there, that why would a birch log be placed? And we actually found where it had been plucked out of across the road in this very wet area that we wouldn't have stepped in because we would have sunk, our feet right into it. So really some really weird stuff and then the next day there was a 9.5, 9-inch track found perpendicular to the trail in the same direction I had seen it moving. So,
But I also think that, the next great video that comes out is probably just going to be like some kid was out hunting and saw a Bigfoot and pulled out his camera on his phone and started filming.
I've been saying that.
Somebody we hope has the wherewithal to film and continue filming.
It's very unlikely that a Bigfoot researcher is going to be the guy who actually gets that film.
Well, the other thing too is that we also have to consider that everything we have is digital now.
Yeah.
Everything we use is digital. So what happens is it focuses on the nearest thing it sees. So that's why we get a lot of blurry pictures. That's why I never discount anybody that has a blob squatch that has had a physical sighting with it. Never discount. Okay, well, it's a blob squatch, but you have at least your eyes to back it up. I consider blob squatches part of the lunacy is the people that just take pictures of the woods and there's one, there's one, there's one, there's one. Oh, there's one cloak, there's one, and all the red circle levels coming. Yeah, I'm out. If somebody had, I years ago I got a picture from a guy by the name of Jack Leach who just recently passed away, who had seen it, and he had always kept a pocket camera because he was. That's what he did. He was actually a field guide for people, and he pulled out his camera and snapped a picture of it because it kept peeking up out of the woods, looking up at him, and going back in and looking, and kind of like seeing if he was there. Well, he snapped one picture off. It was a blob squatch, but you have that sighting, that actual sighting, saying that's it. He wasn't one to go in the woods and take 5,000 pictures and say there's a Sasquatch everywhere. That was the only picture he ever took. So to me, that adds some legitimacy to it.
You can go out in the woods tomorrow and take a photograph and pick out faces. I mean, our mind goes to that.
Well, I did that in one of my videos. One of my first videos when I started the movement was me in my backyard, and I have woods behind my yard. So I'm sitting there. Here I am in the woods, and is that a Sasquatch? No, it's not moving. And that's what really drives me crazy is the videos. There's the Sasquatch there, and it's not moving. It's perfectly still the entire time. And it can go for 5 minutes. Well, they can stand perfectly still. Bullshit. No creature can. No creature can.
They got to breathe. I mean, there's got to be some movement.
Yeah.
What are the odds that, your camera, depending on the lens and how close you are to the subject, is going to have a different range of view? But on average, you could say the scope of a photo might be 15 feet across, maybe a little more, maybe a little bit less. So you randomly took a picture of 15 feet of woods, and there just happened to be 7 Bigfoot standing in that
right.
That
every time you take that
when you were there.
Yeah, every time you take that picture, there's 7 or 8 or 12 Bigfoot standing there.
And you will find a dozen people on Facebook, if you post it, to say, wow, that's a great picture.
Oh, yeah.
I did. Back when
one
I
of
was
the things
doing,
we went, go ahead.
Back when I was doing this, I took some video of I was out in the woods. I can't remember what I was doing. And people were pointing out the Bigfoot all over the place in my video. And I was like, there aren't any here. None.
Okay, I'll give you even one better. There is a clip of me on Monster Quest where there is something.
I think I've seen this one, yeah.
Where there's something moving in the background. And even, it's been a while, but within maybe the last 6 months, I've gotten one. But ever since that episode came out in 2008, people say, did you see that thing moving behind you? I think you got a Bigfoot. No, that's Dave McCullough. He was camping. I can recognize him just by seeing him back there. The trail was behind me and he just so happened to cut across the trail when we were filming. Wasn't supposed to be there, but he did. but it wasn't enough of a distraction to edit that and reshoot it, or they didn't just catch it. But no, it wasn't a Bigfoot. But you wouldn't believe how many people think that it was a Bigfoot.
Well,
and you could probably tell them, and they'd still believe it was Bigfoot.
There's been a couple that I've said, no, are you sure? I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
Well, we've even seen the emergence of the Google Earth Bigfooters that scan Street View images and find Bigfoot in them.
Dude, do you remember? Wait a minute. Do you remember the fucking Bigfoot, the supposed Bigfoot in the movie Wild?
Yes.
Oh no, I haven't seen it, but
oh my god! But if you go and you look, it's a fox. Matt had sent it to me. I believe it was you.
Yeah.
When the whole thing came out, because I had seen the movie.
Right. I had watched the movie too, and then I ran across that article, and I was like, "What are they talking about?" Like,
right. And they're like, "There's a Bigfoot in Wild," and then you look, and it's like, at first you're like, "What the fuck?" But then you take a closer look, and it's like, it's a fucking fox.
But a lot of people just don't get past that what the fuck stage, and they want to believe so bad.
Yeah.
I don't know if they want to believe so bad, or I don't know what's conditioned them to do that, but it's. I don't think we'll ever know the answer.
Office went on.
But it's a weird phenomenon.
Man, did you see that light just go on behind Steve Kulls?
He's a paranormal guy, Steve.
He's
got a spirit. He's got a spirit
into existence.
Yeah, he's got a spirit friend with him named Alexa.
You're right. I have my spirit guide is Alexa.
Yeah. So moving on, and we don't have to spend too much time on it. But I did take a look at it, the 4K restoration of the Patterson Gimlin footage, and it really is some nice footage. I was talking about this with Richard Allen and with Phil Poling last night on the Squatchable podcast, the news that we do on Saturdays. And I said, well, obviously when they enhance it like this, they got to fill in some of the gaps to make it look the way that they do. And Phil had agreed with me on that. He's like, yeah, that absolutely happens. And Phil knows a lot about video and photo, the logistics and stuff behind all of this. So I mean, it is, to me, it's like, it's a nice piece of footage to go back and look over in this way. Some people say they can see the seams in it. I don't see these seams that people talk about. I see, again, a very fluid moving creature, although, Richard Allen had brought up, well, she stumbles, and it's like, well, do you stumble, motherfucker? It happens. But the thing, and I hate to gravitate towards it, but the thing that really gets it for me is I can't see the point in putting breasts on a costume. If you're gonna hoax something in that day and age, I don't see the reality being, hey, let's put breasts on this thing. And here's Richard Allen's comment. Oh, whoops. Because somebody else commented. It's obviously a suit. I don't think so. I don't see it as a suit.
If it was obvious,
if it is a suit, dude, it's a damn good suit. It's a damn good suit, because I don't see it.
It's obviously a suit to people that are refusing to accept the fact that it might be a real creature.
Right.
And I would think that if it was obviously a suit, we wouldn't even be having this discussion anymore.
Right.
It's
obviously a suit that nobody else could recreate since. It hasn't been turned up anywhere. And it was better than any of the suits being put in Hollywood budget movies at the time. and you have 3 different costume
I dare
makers.
say that fucking thing probably would, if it is a suit, would look better than the shit that they put out today.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And you got 3 special effects professionals who make costumes and everything, including one that was doing it at the time and was in the industry in Hollywood, who have all said it's not a freaking suit.
Well, Matt, I want to correct you. They're not professionals. They're experts.
They're professional experts.
And currently we have microphones in front of us, so we are experts in our field.
That is right.
I come from the old Opie and Anthony days of broadcasting. If you've got a microphone in front of you, you are a fucking expert.
Here's the deal. If you have been nominated and or won Academy Awards for special effects and makeup and design, or work for a production company that has, and you tell me there's no way that's a suit, I trust you.
Over somebody who hasn't.
Over some guy in the UK saying it's obviously a suit. Was that a spot on Richard Allen impression?
God, I'm sure.
Yeah.
He's like, did I just say something?
What is going on?
No, I don't see it as a suit. The video looks good, and if it is a suit, I very well could be wrong. I'm saying what I don't see. I don't see it is a suit. But if it is a suit, that's a fucking damn good suit for what, 1967?
Yeah.
That's a damn good suit.
Go read the Munns report and argue against it.
Very true. So I kind of looked at both sides of the argument, and somebody had made mention of something, and I'm looking at something in there that, because, like I say, I always look at a video by the story behind it. The story seems solid. Seems very unlikely that, it seems to be a very fluid moving object. The fact that he falls off the horse and steadies the camera afterwards, again, that's something you wouldn't expect. The breasts you wouldn't expect. Even in some of the frames that aren't, everybody looks at 352 or is it 372? Sorry. Anyway, the frames with the feet on it look very interesting as well. The footprints that were left behind seem to me a bit narrow. That's the forensic evidence on it. It seems a little bit narrow, but that being said, my only concern about that film is most of our Sasquatch witnesses see a long-haired creature, and the hair on this creature didn't seem very long. That's my only concern.
Yeah, the hair on this thing seems kind of patchy, if you ask me.
Right,
now, does that indicate some type of like mange?
Where it's patchy or wear points. That was apparent to me. It's along the sides. If you look at, hey, I'm a hairy guy, so I can look at it and go, okay, I can see where it would not have hair here, because I don't, because that's where my wear points are, where I walk, how I walk.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have hair up on the other side of my arms because they brush alongside my sides. I don't have hair on the side of my my rib cage because that's where my arms rub against. Along my hips because that's where my that's where my hands rub against. So it makes sense where the patches are.
Yeah.
That's a positive.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I look at this footage and I was watching it again today. I watched through the whole thing again today, to be fair.
And you know what?
A good look at it yet again, and it just it looks like you're saying. It looks very fluid. She just goes.
And I just realized something. I am the expert here because I've been in Mad Magazine.
Oh,
That's me right there, saying it's a hoax.
Nice.
it's a hoax.
Nice.
Yeah. I've
for
looked
it.
at every incarnation of the Patterson Gimlin footage, all the enhancements except for the latest one because I don't have 4K, so it doesn't do me that
Well,
much
I mean,
good.
I watch it on a high definition TV, and I
Right.
mean, you can still appreciate the way that the film looks
But every time
with the restoration.
every time I've watched it, I've been looking on purpose for seams. I've been looking on purpose for things that just don't make sense, and I just can't pick it out. And usually in films, you're going to pick something out. But my God, did Roger Patterson have the money or the ability to make that suit? That's what it comes down to me. And I don't think he had either. I mean, he had the board, didn't he? He didn't even pay for the camera, if I'm correct. Not correct.
Oh yeah, no, he didn't he owe money on it or something?
Yeah. I mean, did he really have? And it's clear to me that Philip Morris didn't make that costume because you can see the stuff he made for the movies, and it's just not the same quality, not even close. And his recreation of it wasn't close.
I'm going to say something that'll probably offend a lot of people.
Offend them, Matt. Go ahead.
But like the aspects of, let's say it's a suit and breasts were added intentionally. And then during the filming of the event, everything was choreographed and scripted. I do not think the individuals directly involved were intelligent enough to come up with those ideas.
No.
No.
I don't either. I think it's a stretch to believe that. I think it's a stretch to believe that Patterson and Gimlin set this up. I think that's the bigger stretch than to go. They probably filmed a Bigfoot. You know what I'm saying? Like, I think if to go, hey, they probably filmed a Bigfoot is a less of a stretch than to go. These motherfuckers hoaxed this.
Well, even whenever they didn't make any money off of it or anything.
Yeah.
Like Cole said, they didn't come out with a second and third film.
Like,
but
and
the story hasn't changed.
And I've said it before. I'll say it again. If it's a hoax, all I want is on fucking Gimlin's fucking deathbed for him to fucking send Rick Dyer one of those bag of dicks. Like, fuck you, motherfucker. If it's a hoax,
this is the way you do a hoax.
Fucking
Right.
send Dyer a bag of fucking dicks.
If it's a hoax, it's a good one. And it could very well be.
And to Lauren Coleman, I bequeath the Patterson costume for the Cryptozoology Museum.
That costume
that
existed.
motherfucker would be there.
Dude, that's $1 million costume. Somebody could become a millionaire if they actually owned that costume.
Yeah.
Would you really hold on to it this long? I know there's speculation that it's in someplace, and would you really hold on to it? Hell no. I sure wouldn't.
Well, again, holding on to it is the only sure way because we're not talking anything criminal.
No.
So if you stick it in your basement, who's ever going to find it?
Yeah, but why would you?
If you put it in a dump, you dump it in the river, you put it somewhere else, somebody can find it.
Yeah, it could always be found.
Yeah, but
No,
most of
it
the
depends-
parties
it depends on how committed to the hoax you are.
Most of the parties involved are either long gone or, the story's been around what's it really going to do if it came out tomorrow and that suit came out? Bob Gimlin wouldn't have a speaking career anymore.
But that's what I'm
he's
saying.
in his 80s.
He would make a lot more money with it being a hoax than he would going around
I would
speaking at
think so.
conferences.
I don't think so.
Are you fucking kidding me? The book deal he gets?
Yeah, the movie deals,
first
like
book
the
deal he
greatest
gets.
hoax ever pulled.
Yeah. Oh,
I
fuck
created a whole genre.
Well, what would be the shitstorm if it came out to be a hoax? Ever think of that? What would be the repercussions?
I don't know.
Russell Accord would have to find a new gig.
Yeah, right.
But that
No, it would be a huge.
Oh, it'd be a
His
shit
life
story.
would be in danger. Unfortunately, his
People
life
would
would
get
be in
pissed.
danger.
People would get pissed.
He's already received threats before
Yeah.
for it being real.
Yeah, people are very strange when it comes to this subject, and it goes back to that whole cult mentality.
Yeah, but which side of the cult are we on? Are we part of that cult mentality if we believe it? If you think about it, before you answer that, look at the shit we gave. If this was ever to come out a hoax, look at the shit we gave to Bob Hieronymus.
Well, if it comes out a hoax, it's still not going to be Bob Hieronymus.
Yeah, it's not Bob Hieronymus. So I mean, and
How do we know? How do we know?
Hey, possibly it could be. It could be Bob Hieronymus. You could be. You're right.
Because
it
I'm
could
going to
be,
play
but
devil's. Let me play devil's advocate. Bob Hieronymus took a lie detector test.
So did Justin.
Yeah,
lie detector tests can be fooled easily.
But no, they can't be. Actually, they can't be fooled easily. They can be fooled, but we can't use Smedja as a potential. We can't use that as an example because that was set up by a party friendly to him.
But Hieronymus was set up by a television show.
And if you look into it, Steve, I believe.
But a television show would have no vested interest because either way it would have been a good story.
Right.
Because they would have said.
I believe though that the lady who gave Justin's lie detector test was associated with the same people who gave the lie detector test on that show. So
no, this is your.
No. What I'm saying is the guy who did that lie detector test originally, the guy who invented that. It's called lie detector in a box if you look it up. And I believe he's the one who did that show. And she took his course, and that's how she became a lie detector. I did a whole thing on it back when I was doing that shit.
But and I actually got a real good crash course in polygraph examination. I forget his name is David Bird, and David Bird worked for Scotland Yard for 32 years. We used him on the truth behind the Loch Ness Monster, and I come from an investigative background, and him and I had the longest conversation. You do not become a polygraph examiner by taking a course. You can technically, but he went to school for 6 months for polygraph examination. I actually went to the school's website to see if I wanted to take it myself, but it was just too labor intensive, and I would have been out of pocket for 6 months. But not only do they teach you in a public polygraph, they just don't teach you. They give you practical exams. They teach you how to interrogate. And this guy now goes around for Interpol and does polygraph examinations of both known criminals and possible criminals in big, high-profile cases. And when I hear somebody took a polygraph exam in a course, there's a big difference in that versus.
And that's how the one that Justin got was definitely that, because I looked it all up. I don't remember how I found her name. We were associated with Sean and Roe at the time, and they were the ones behind all that. And, I found out all this, and boy, did I catch hell for putting that information out.
But then again, like I say, I'm not talking about the Smedja thing, because can lie detectors be fooled? Usually lie detectors will give positive false answers or indicate the person is lying more than they will say a person is indicating the truth. That's why they're not admissible in a court of law.
However, there are people out there who are pathological liars and believe what they say. And those people can also fool lie detector tests. It's why I don't hold any stock in them whatsoever. Because there are people out there, and I actually have a family member who's like that.
Well, you know what David Bird said to me, though? David Bird said to me, It's not about fooling the machine. It's about fooling the polygraph examiner.
Right.
Because when you do a setup interview, because you just don't go in, sit down, and take the test.
Mm-mm.
You get a discussion, and you get some of the questions ahead of time. Believe it or not.
Yes, you do.
And the discussion is basically explaining to the person the accuracy of the machine, discussing what they look at, discussing all of that, and it makes a person squirm. And then the truth behind the Loch Ness Monster, they had 3 people take the polygraph exam. Why did they only show 2? Because the third person failed the exam. He was the boat captain that we were taking out. So in fact, I remember David coming out saying he's lying. He failed the polygraph exam horribly. Turns out, 2 years later, that boat captain tried to use a picture of the prop used on that documentary and said he had a new picture of the Loch Ness Monster and proved that he was a hoaxer and a liar. I knew that 2 years earlier because of that polygraph exam. Because the polygraph examiner is top notch.
I think you have to, if you're looking at polygraph examinations at all, you have to look at the examiner because they are the ones who interpret the results.
That's
and
why
if you are like on a TV show that, and not necessarily the one you were on because you had a real polygraph examiner, but one that's set up just for that. And when you have one that's called polygraph examination in a box and it's a course you take, how do they know how to interpret that stuff, right? Exactly. And that's why you can't believe the SMEO one at all.
The setup that we did was, I wasn't even in the room. I actually had a live feed of the examination as it was going on, and they had one cameraman, one sound guy. The director wasn't even in the room, and it was just David sitting. Actually, the cameras were actually zoomed in because the cameras weren't even allowed within like 30 feet of the polygraph examination. They were sitting back, and they were told to keep absolutely silent, and they did. And all they did was film it and adjust the sound on it, and the setup was beautiful. I mean, David was very precise how he wanted things. And I have a picture of him actually getting the machine ready, sitting there with the examination. And you don't even see the camera because they're so far back. When you have a setup where, what I recall, it was such an enclosed room that, and when you have friends standing behind you, supporting you, again, that adds to the psychological conformity of what you're saying. Mm-hmm. What you need to do is isolate that person. They're alone. This test is going to be. So when you get the tough question, it's going to make you squirm a bit. And you got to understand that the control questions, too, are to determine if the person's lying or telling the truth. So there's a number of control questions there as well. But I was actually blessed to get explained how the process works. I was sat down. We spent the better part of one morning talking about that after breakfast and talking about the interview process. I mean, I got a crash course in it by a top-notch guy, and I was really appreciative of it. So I saw how that thing works, and you're not going to get a truth as a negative result. You're more apt to get a lie as a negative result, because what really triggers the machines is nervousness.
Well, I mean, be that neither here nor there, it's just it can be unreliable. I think, and I think that, and I think right, and I think that's the bigger issue. Yeah, can it do its job? Yeah, I'm sure it can, but it's the fact that it can be unreliable, and that's why we tend not to use it for anything.
But I guess my point being is that the whole question was that, if it ever came out to be false, we would owe Bob Hieronymus an apology, because he's got a polygraph exam that says, regardless of how we may feel about a polygraph exam, he said back in '94 when he came out that it was a hoax. He took a polygraph exam. I think it was like '96 or '97, whenever that show was on, and passed it, stating it was a hoax. You can't His story did change after the first month of telling it, but you can't. I fear more that nutcase Cal Korff when it comes out. That guy was a train wreck. And I don't know if Richard knows Cal Korff, but yeah, here's a guy that claimed he was a colonel in the Israeli Special Secret Services. Turns out that he had to admit that the Israeli Special Secret Services was actually a private security firm. So, so you're a colonel as a security guard, basically.
Yeah. Yeah, fucking people are so weird about shit like that. They can't just come out and be who they are. That's half the problem with a lot of this stuff is that people make up these personas. I think that has a lot to do with it. But yeah, I mean, could the Patterson Gimlin film have been a hoax? I have to concede that yes, it may have been. But at at the same time, when I look at that film, to this day, I don't have anything in me that goes, yeah, no. I look at it and I see a creature. I don't see a guy in a suit or a woman in a suit for that matter. I see a creature.
And by that aspect, and we all have to, not just you, me, Steve, Matt, we all kind of have to disqualify ourselves to it because we have had this film ingrained on us for years.
Yeah.
Believing that it was a real thing.
Yeah.
Can we really deep down look at it objectively? And you have to question yourself, can you?
Yeah.
Myself
that's a good point as well. And
included.
That's why I say, could it very well be a hoax? Yeah. I have to concede that point. But to me, I feel like it isn't. But I'm not gonna just bash somebody up and down the street. Hey, you see a seam? I don't see that seam. But if you see that seam, and you're right, and let's say somewhere down the road it comes out that you're right, fucking, I'll be the first one to be like, yeah, you were right. I was fucking wrong.
And that's the problem we have right there is that most people will not admit.
Oh no, they'll be like, fuck you.
Right.
Well,
that's how that one argument had progressed. Like he made a flippant statement saying that no primates have a tapetum lucidum. Yes, there's actually 12. Well, they're not great apes. Who says Sasquatch is a great ape? Who says it's a hominin? Who says it's a hominin? The only thing I can say it's a primate. Do primates have a tapetum lucidum? There are 12 species that do.
Yeah. And there are many questions that are unresolved when it comes to these issues. And there are many, and across the board. It's not just this. It's you look at other types of Fortean subjects, UFOs, ghosts, other supposed cryptids. You were talking. You did some stuff with the Loch Ness monster. And there's other supposed creatures out there. And I've said for a long time, you want to find, some unknown creatures. You want to look in the fucking ocean. That's the place to be looking. That it is vastly unexplored. We've barely even scratched the surface, and that's where you're going to find some out of this world shit.
Well, one of the most interesting things is I came across an article today that was talking about the lifespan of certain creatures, and I found it really interesting that there's one fish that can live. They think it can live up to 300 years.
Yeah.
I mean, that's incredible. But then they pointed out the Hydra. They believe it could actually be immortal because it consists of complete all it is stem cells, and they can regenerate and form into whatever they need to form into.
Yeah.
So it doesn't age.
Yeah.
So
There's some weird shit in the
Yeah.
ocean, man.
Yeah.
Some weird shit. And I mean, you go into like orcas and dolphins. I mean, these are creatures that get high, you know, recreationally. They fucking like do shit with blowfish to get fucked up. They have these social societies. They're super intelligent.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, I mean, it's mind-boggling the stuff that is under the water, right?
Uh,
You know, that we don't pay as much attention to.
And the amazing story of, and this was a recent story of this diver who started getting circled by an orca, and the orca was getting really close to her and kind of pushing her, and she couldn't understand why it was acting so aggressively and frantically. Turns out there was a great white shark in the area.
Yeah.
And it was actually shielding and protecting her from the shark.
Yeah. And orcas will fuck up a shark.
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah. So, but yeah, I think that about wraps up the show for tonight, gentlemen. I think we fucking delved into
2
that
hours.
shit.
Wow.
Yeah. Well, that's been the norm lately, Steve.
Yeah.
It's been the norm. 2-hour
really
podcast.
Good deep discussions here tonight.
Yeah. I like the format, the way we do the show. It's a conversation.
Yep.
You know, and we can agree to disagree on things. People, and I think that's where a lot of people are lacking.
Right.
Exactly. And social media is part of that. It's so easy to blow up on somebody or misinterpret how they come across on social media.
Yeah. And Matt and I we've brought it up a few times on the show now. Matt and I got into a political discussion, not on air, like off air, between the two of us one night, and it went on for like two almost 3 hours, and like it got heated. I wouldn't say that it got to the point where we started throwing like jabs, but it got heated, and at the end, like Matt goes, "Hey man, I'd just like to like thank, not thank." He's like, "I think like the two of us should be like congratulated." And I'm like, "For what?" And he's like, "Because we're still friends."
Yeah, right.
It's just like the ability to be able to have a discussion like that and not attack one another because we have varying or differing viewpoints. And the one thing that we found about that whole evening, that whole discussion, was that we agreed on more than we disagreed. But it was the disagreements where there was a real issue, but that we agreed on way more. And I wish people would just find that common ground and talk to one another. It's why I wish that the people who disagree with us would come on this show. And I've been in talks with some of those people. Steven Stroyford, if you listen to this fucking show, come on the fucking show, man. We disagree. We're going to disagree. But, it doesn't have to be like this strange, like, attacking thing. Like, we don't want to attack you. We just want to have a discussion. That's it. But and other people, we've invited some other people who we've had some barbs with over the years, so it should be interesting. But Steve, I'd like to thank you for coming on the show. For everybody out there, where can they hit you up, Steve?
Well, they can always hit me up on Facebook, or they can swagger on over to squatchdetective.com. We'll be bringing the podcast back real soon. SquatchDetectiveRadio.com, blogtalkradio.com/SquatchDetective.
So just as it is, your name underneath
.com.
.com. So yeah,
.com.
SquatchDetective.com to check out what Steve's doing. Yeah, thanks for coming on. We appreciate it, and it was a great talk tonight, man.
Oh, awesome. Always fun, guys.
See you in another few years.
This has been the Fortean Slip, episode 87. The Squatch Detective, Steve Kulls. If you like this shit, hit the little thumbs up button. If you don't, hit the little thumbs down button. Leave a comment. Subscribe. Check out Matt Knapp at youtube.com/bigfootcrossroads and youtube.com/cryptid tales. Check out our good friend Para Bob Phil Poling at youtube.com. Para Breakdown. Phil is reapplying for his monetization, and he's also doing something on Patreon. I will get his
Good luck,
Patreon
Phil.
link and put that up on the show for him as well. As always, you can check out the Sweetwater
Come
legend Steve
on.
Alcorn every week,
Asshole.
Sunday at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Check out our good friend Dred Funn at dredfunn.com and youtube.com/Dred Funn. I've been posting this link. The show is now a podcast in a podcast format. You can download it to your phone through Apple Podcast, Google Podcast, I think it is, Spotify, Pocket Cast is another one. Fucking
All those
kinds of
cast
shit.
services.
Yeah, cast services. Check us out, subscribe to the podcast, and you can still listen to it again. Enjoy
Don't
it
forget.
all over again.
And don't forget, September 20th, Storm Area 51.
Oh yeah, storm area. I forgot to talk about that tonight. We got
What-
so
what?
fucking in depth on the Bigfoot shit. I forgot all about talking about Storm Area 51. But yeah, hashtag Stop the Lunacy for Steve Kulls. We will be back next week with another show. I do not have a topic picked out at the moment. We do have the archaeologist I've been in talks with, who just got back from the Mayan dig. We will get her on as soon as I get a chance to talk to her.
Wait, ain't you going to be here next week?
Yes, next week I will be in Ohio with one Steve Alcorn, the Sweetwater legend. I will be there with Steve next. I will be there Friday. We'll be having coffee Friday morning.
Will we?
Yep,
All
we'll
right.
be having coffee Friday morning.
All right.
And Sunday we'll be doing the show. So look for that show next week. That will be broadcasting live with Steve from Ohio. And we will come up with something to talk about. Let's figure that out, Steve. This is going to be a good one for us to talk about.
Are we
like,
picking a
in
producer?
person. Yes, next week we picked the producer. That's right.
Out
too.
of
Thank you
all
for
the myriads of videos that we
out
got.
of the 3 videos we got so far, I will check to see if we've got any new videos. I did post the Gabby Mahalik video on the Facebook like page, so you can check that out. And we will choose next week. Thank you all for joining us. See ya.